Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the study. Now, in this lecture, we'll explore the traditional Chinese teaching that is specifically related to industrial activity. Now, it might be a striking thing to you what we can possibly learn from the teaching 2,500 years ago about industry, right? Which is seemingly a modern phenomenon. Actually, industrial activity have been always part of the human life for the whole time. By industry, we mean the making of things by the power of man. So it's actually a very broad concept and all-inclusive. So in the ancient times, industry was done mostly by hand. But bear in mind, please, that the principles of industry that we're going to explore are suitable to all ages. Firstly, we'll explore the different divisions of industry and how the division of labor is in harmony with the evolution of industries. So this continues the teaching that we explored in the previous lecture about labor. And secondly, we'll introduce the concept of industrial democracy. Lastly, we'll re-examine the concept of labor specialization in greater depth and see how the Buddhist teaching of wisdom is put into practice in industrial activities. Okay, so let's begin. Division of industry. So even in ancient times, industry was given a high level of importance. Recall that in the Doctrine of the Mean, it records 9 standard rules of governance. And regarding the principle of promoting industry, it says that by inducing all classes of artisans to come into the country, wealth is made sufficient. So the prosperity depends on human power. And it is still the case even in today's, machine-driven production era. Machine can replace tedious manual work, no doubt, but the production method and all the technology used in the production process depends on human intelligence and collaboration. So the ancient sages recognized that it is important to attract human resources from all the rest of the world into the country in order to utilize both intellectual power and labor power. In the process of production, agriculture comes before industry, just because it supplies food and it furnishes raw materials. With respect to the dependency of human power, industry naturally ranks before agriculture. Okay, so this is because part of the agriculture is nature dependent, whereas industry activity is almost entirely dependent upon human will, human knowledge, practice, and collaboration. Now, in modern economy, the division of industry is very complex and numerous. For example, based on the 4-digit standard industrial classification system, SIC, as we usually refer to, the categories that are related to the making of things, there are roughly 226 very detailed divisions of industries. If we reclassify these divisions based on major groups using 2-digit system, there are roughly 26 divisions. In ancient China, the government divided industry into 6 divisions. So not based on the final use of the product, but by how materials and products are stored. So they are land, wood, waters, grass, manufactured articles, and mineral commodities. So essentially, they were the 6 treasures for the storing of products. Meanwhile, some of these materials were, actually taxes paid in kind. So the imperial government established the 6 treasuries for the keeping of the different commodities. And the 6 treasuries held the products paid by the farmers as well as foresters and inhabitants along the waters, the gardeners, the artisans, and merchants. Okay. Now, because the stores of these 6 treasuries were mostly raw materials, they needed to be processed and manufactured. So, based on the record in the Book of Rights, there were 6 imperial factories that dealt with these materials. Okay, so the industry was divided into 6 kinds, and there were workers in earth, as it says, workers in metal, in stone, in wood, workers in skins of animals, and workers in twigs. And you may notice that the metal, stone, and skin of the animal are left out from the 6 treasuries. And this is because these were included in the manufactured articles and mineral commodities. So, for the same reason, the six factories left out the products of the water, the manufactured articles, and the mineral commodities, because they were included in the factories of metal workers and stone workers. So it looks a little bit, a bit of a mismatch, but the 6 factories didn't necessarily correspond with the 6 treasuries in details. For example, the superintendent of the land had charge of the products of the farmer, which might be ready for consumption, but the factory of earth workers was a factory of pottery. Therefore, the 6 treasuries were simply warehouses of the different products, and their goods were not necessarily turned over to the 6 factories for production. So that's one thing. And the other thing is the 6 factories were places where the places for manufacturing different articles. So they didn't necessarily take their materials from those 6 treasuries only. Okay, but of course the 6 factories had a very close connection with the 6 treasuries, although there was no exact correspondence between them. So this the system of 6 treasuries and 6 factories was the system of the Shang dynasty. Now, as history progressed to the Zhou dynasty, industry was highly developed, but there were still 6 kinds only. So according to the Rights of Zhou, the chapter of industry record, the industry of Zhou was divided into wood, metal, animal skin, coloring, polishing, and industry of earth. And these are the 6 major groups of industries. The industry record also describes all of the subdivisions of all the major groups. In particular, there are 7 branches of the industry of wood, and I think 6 branches of the industry of metal, 5 for the industry of animal skin, another 5 for the industry of polishing, another 5 for the industry of coloring, and 2 branches for the industry of earth. Now, we're not going to go into any detail of these 30 industry classifications, but what I'm trying to make, the point I'm trying to make here is that we can see that the development of industry was fairly sophisticated in Zhou dynasty.